What is up, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to Don't Say the F Word, a pro wrestling and combat sports podcast where we do not use the F word when we talk about professional wrestling. Shouldn't let your friends use it either. Today is Sunday, November 27th. We are just coming off of WWE Survivor Series War Games, which I currently have going on the TV again here, just kind of, just catch anything I may have missed. All in all, man, I think it was a really solid show. I really like Triple H's WWE is really doing a lot to give the fans kind of what they want. We want good shows, good even on a premium live event. You want something that's still kind of progressing a story, and I really feel like that's what was delivered to us on Survivor Series War Games. We still had story progression. We still had a lot of things happening, and it was that a very good and engaging pay-per-view premium live event. Gotta make sure I say that right. That's gonna be a hard thing for me to unlearn. I'm old. I don't know what to tell you. The first match, kicking off with the women's War Games match, as Triple H said in the post event media scrum, it was a great way to start strong to make sure you end strong, which I think is a big thing that we have to have in our wrestling events, is that we're starting up strong. Things are going to need to end strong, and starting off in a War Games match, you can't really start anything stronger than that, right? Like, that's kind of the epitome to have a War Games match be the kickoff to a show. Like, nothing's really more impactful than War Games. It's, Dusty Rhodes created to be the match beyond, and it was, designed to be the most extreme kind of situation. Not for the faint of heart, for a competitor, for anyone watching. It was meant to, I don't want to say it was meant to be extreme, but I mean, it was kind of meant to be extreme, right? Like, before we were using the phrase extreme to describe Mountain Dew, Dusty Rhodes was putting together War Games. I don't have a single complaint about the pay-per-view other than the Ronda Rousey match, but we'll get to that. I liked that after the first match, we went straight into progressing the story, went right into talking about the Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens friendship that's been around for years. They've been friends forever. I think that to continue progressing that story throughout the pay-per-view, to leave that question in the air, is Sami legit? Is he truly with the bloodline, or is he going to divert back to his old ways? And I think that it's always a possibility that we do get back to that we do get Sami doing those things. And I think that's really kind of the story we kind of get toward the end of the night. But back to the pay-per-view, we talked about the women's match. I think the women's match was designed to really book Rhea to look really strong, and I think they were successful at that. I think Rhea Ripley really showed her aggressiveness, showed her ability to outpower the other women on the roster. I will say, uncanny resemblance to Marilyn Manson with Rhea's character. But, having Team Bianca win, I think was kind of a given. We kind of knew that would happen. I think it was kind of a foregone conclusion, in my opinion. I don't know. You don't bring Becky Lynch back to have her be on the losing team, I don't think. I could be wrong there. I don't know. I do think they use that women's match to kind of build some future feuds there with Rhea and Becky. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what they do there. I think it's going to be important to have a title be in the equation for them. But we'll kind of see how that pans out. I don't know. We then moved on to the Finn Balor AJ Styles match, which those two guys are always going to deliver a good match. I don't really see a situation where they could ever have a bad match with each other. You know what I mean? Like, I feel they are two of the most talented guys on the roster, without a doubt. And I think we're, even though we've had them pitted against each other for some time with the ongoing Judgment Day versus the Club, and I mean, just kind of the Judgment Day versus AJ Styles, that story's been being told for like 6 months, 6+ months, probably. Like, so AJ was anti-Judgment Day when Edge was still in charge of Judgment Day. And now that it's switched, I mean, the night before Finn joined, it was Finn and AJ and Liv Morgan against Judgment Day. And they lost, and Finn took the pinfall. Finn got defeated, and then decided to join Judgment Day, but took Edge out of the equation. So that feud's been going on since that time frame. Like, sure, you change who's in charge, but it's still the same thing. It's still the Club versus the Judgment Day, still kind of going on. And I don't think this match is the end all be all for the feud either. I think that we're still going to see more from the two factions. I think they should have just done a traditional Survivor Series match. Would have been kind of the way to go to have the blow off to the feud. I did. Finn coming out in the mask for premium live events is kind of cool, right? I wish it was a different mask, just a solid black mask I didn't necessarily get. I think maybe they should have done some, I don't know, maybe something that looked a little bit of a old school Bullet Club kind of logo, and maybe morphed it a little to be purple and implemented some ideas of the Judgment Day behind that logo on that mask. Could bring a little more doom and gloom with him to the ring. But I still don't fully understand the Judgment Day shtick. I didn't get the kind of corny spookiness of it whenever Edge was still the leader. I'm not sure I fully grasp what the motives are, unless Rhea Ripley is the one manipulating and brainwashing people, which I think kind of needs to be the story being told, is that it's Rhea. Rhea is the one kind of controlling everyone and leading them down a dark and sinister path. And she should be the leader. Like, if that's the angle. I don't think it should be that Dom and Rhea are a couple. I don't think that should be the story. I think the better story is that somehow she's taking control of people's minds, and she's evil, and she's sinister, and she is the darkness that is running Judgment Day, and that's the story. And it gives you an opportunity to really kind of pit her kind of as the end boss in Judgment Day. And you could have Finn and Damian Priest and Dom be kind of underbosses. I did think the whole shtick of them showing up to Ray's house, Rhea and Dom, I thought that was funny. I thought it was funny that we're meant to work under the idea that Rey Mysterio hangs out wearing a mask in his house. At Thanksgiving dinner, Ray's just got a mask on, and everyone's just kind of cool with that. There's no one takes an issue with the fact that Ray's just rocking a mask at home. Everybody's just, that's just what it is, and we're all just cool with it. I thought that was kind of funny build up over the weekend, I guess, if you want to consider it holiday weekend. I did think that Finn and AJ's match was really, I thought it was damn good. I thought it was solid. I did like their match a couple years back where it was Demon King, Finn Balor versus AJ Styles. I thought that match brought a little bit more to the table. But you consider the years that passed, the age that these guys are at. Like, they're not old men by any means, but they're a little older than me. They're still moving really well. The spot where AJ hit kind of moonsault back to catch Finn in the reverse DDT situation to drop the elbow. Thought that was cool. Both guys hit their key spots. I thought the way we got to the finish was really, honestly, cool. I like how they had, the utilization for AJ between the rings and getting to the phenomenal forearm. So AJ Styles does win this one. Which, honestly, I was in agreement with Mark the Monster. Yeah, he thought that we were going to see AJ Styles win because he thought we were going to see Finn Balor win, and instead AJ Styles won. I thought Finn was going to win just because I thought Judgment Day just kind of, not that he needed to win, but I just thought it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt AJ to take the loss. Gotta have my coffee. I thought AJ could he hadn't won on a premium live event, pay-per-view, whatever you want to call it, in years. It's been years. So I thought he could have afforded the loss, and I thought that the Spooky Kids of Judgment Day I needed to continue momentum, especially with Rhea not being on the winning team in War Games match. I just kind of thought they wouldn't have them both take a loss. I thought you have a loss in one area of the event and a win down the line, and continue to build something, because eventually we have to have kind of the full group battle. But I don't know where we get I don't know when we get to that, because we don't have another premium live event until Rumble, and I can't imagine we're going to do a multi-tag match at Rumble, just because I don't think there's the time frame in the event. You're going to have so much time taken up with the 2 Royal Rumble matches, and you really kind of have to give a match where you have such large groups pitted against one another. You're going to have to give that a lot of time, right? I think that's not something you can kind of polish off in 10, 15 minutes. You really kind of have to, that has to tell a whole story in and of itself. You really have to have an entire story take place in the ring on multiple levels, because these guys and girls, they all have to work. Everyone kind of has to mix, and it has to have your tag outs, and people have to get their stuff in against multiple opponents. It has to be a lot of back and forth. You have to give these guys a lot of space to let the story breathe as they're telling it, to get to a culmination of a big match like that. I don't think Rumble's the spot. I don't know how you fit it into the schedule of a Royal Rumble matchup, of a Royal Rumble event, to have the OC, the club, whatever we're calling them, versus Judgment Day. I don't think you can really fit it in to that event. So maybe it becomes something where maybe this happens on a Raw. Maybe. It's really hard to say. I feel like the story between the OC and the Judgment Day isn't finished. I feel like there's still a lot more to be told. So this can't be the blow off. You can't have the leaders have their match and never have a full-blown gang warfare match between the two sides. And I really think a traditional Survivor Series match, elimination style, would have been the way to do it. But all in all, honestly, fans rejoice. The women's War Games match got tons of praise online. Very solid. Some amazing spots in that match. They were talking that's above average. I'm calling that a B. Maybe, not doing star ratings, so I think we're giving that a B. I think AJ Styles and Finn Balor, that's solid B. I think very good match. Then we come to, everyone has a match they say stole the show for them from WWE Survivor Series War Games, and you have to give them the War Games matches. People are going to love them. But then everyone's going to have their match that, and we'll talk about mine that I really enjoyed the most. Everyone's going to have the match that is kind of the stinker. Shotzi versus Ronda Rousey is a stinker match. that match left a lot to be desired, and I just don't know that they understand how to book Ronda Rousey in WWE. And it's not to say that she'd be better off someplace else. I also think that Ronda has no connection with the fans. I think whenever she first came in, I think there was a lot. She was still very popular from the UFC. That popularity has dwindled to nothingness in the world of MMA. You have MMA fans who aren't even familiar with Ronda's work. I mean, the entire sport of women's MMA moved on completely without her. And if anyone very knowledgeable in MMA, I don't think are humongous fans of Ronda out the gate, because if you look at what her entire career was, she was fed people that were able to continue marketing Ronda Rousey and making money off of her name. Whenever she finally took her first loss, that first loss was taken against Holly Holmes, and Holly Holmes was supposed to lose that. There was no expectation that Ronda was going to try and strike with Holly Holmes. So having the background I have in mixed martial arts and combat sports in general, things happen where, how do I put this? People are given opponents by promoters that their star is going to beat them. And yes, you have all kinds of elements. I'm not saying that it's all a rigged thing and fixed, but I mean, if you have someone who has a legit finishing move in combat sports, such as Ronda with her armbar, you don't give her people with a jiu-jitsu background. Her judo was world-class. Her jiu-jitsu was average at best. And her striking was elementary. And at some point in time, someone convinced Ronda Rousey she was a striker. And she's not a striker, never was, never should have tried to be one. She tried to be one with Holly Holm, got her head kicked off. No one has really handled a loss on such a grand stage as bad as Ronda Rousey did. She took one loss, took an enormous amount of time off to deal with that. People can criticize that however they want. If you've never been the man in the arena, you don't have a place to. So she took her time off, she came back. She lost again, and that was it. She was done with the sport. And I think for fans that maybe weren't MMA fans, maybe weren't UFC fans, maybe didn't know Ronda from that realm, but just knew her from her being on the Ellen show, I think that those fans, if they go back and they look at her career, they see those last two matches, they see kind of the handling of it, I don't think you can really build her as a pioneer, because she doesn't come off as someone who is worthy of the moniker of being a pioneer, because she couldn't handle defeat. And a lot of people can't. But someone who's being built as a superstar in WWE has to be able to handle a loss. And they have to be able to come back from being down and out to rise again. Sports fans, MMA fans, people love an underdog story. But the thing that we love more than an underdog story is a person who reaches a height of success, gets knocked down, and comes back up. It gives people hope to see someone be at the top of their game and get knocked down a few pegs or all the way down and bottom out and then work their way back up. People love that. With Ronda, you can't get that type of emotion behind her character, because if people go to the UFC and look at what happened, she's not a phoenix who rose from the ashes. She just changed what she did because she got beat. She didn't change her game. She didn't try to come back and be stronger. She just, in wrestling terminology, she took her ball and she went home. And then you bring her in and you try to have her be a babyface. And she isn't a face on any level. She wasn't in MMA. She's not in WWE. So you try and book her that way, and her personality ruins that. Like, that's not even anything other than, that's just not who she is. It's not who she's ever gonna be. So, okay. So then you make her a heel. Well, her heel work is done in a very corny way. It's constantly, you fans, you fans, you fans. Well, you have to have a level of skill and charisma to be able to go out of your way to crap on pro wrestling fans and be able to eventually turn that heat into being, support. Now, MJF does it because he attacks people on a personal level, and everything's always a broad stroke of the pen, and it's not always that level of an attack. MJF can come at you, and he can, crap on an entire town, but he's still, still a big fan of his hometown, and he still loves the sport. And what Ronda did is she went from trying to do cheap heel heat to just crapping on the sport that people enjoy as fans and that she's getting paychecks from. And no one wanted that because we tried to book her as a babyface first. And that was a mistake. Ronda should have... This is going to be me fantasy booking Ronda Rousey's WWE debut and kind of first run. She should have come out and instead of just coming out at the Rumble... that 2018, I think, and pointing at the sign and then doing the intro match with her and Kurt versus Stephanie and Triple H. She should have come out, been in the Rumble, wiped the mat with everyone, and just wins the Rumble. Comes out the next night on Raw and challenges, I believe it was Charlotte at the time, and says that's the belt she wants. And just had her become champ out the gate and have it be, I'm here for a short time. I'm just here for the paycheck. I'm not a wrestling fan. I'm better than this. They could have, or if you didn't want to have her win the Rumble, okay, we don't have her win the Rumble, let her earn her keep. Have her show up on Raw and have her just start mowing through the roster. Armbar after armbar after armbar after armbar after armbar. She wipes out the roster until it's time for her title shot and gets her title shot and loses. And that's where she loses. And then you have her come back and, same thing. She could have, that whole run of wiping out the roster could have been, I'm better than pro wrestling, I'm better than WWE, I'm better than all these people on the roster. That would have been fine. And then you have her then be humbled. And then she can earn the sympathy of the fans. Like, you know what, I'm wrong. I have a lot to learn. She could have gone that angle. And they didn't do that with Ronda. They just threw her into the mix and let her have at it. And I don't know. I don't feel like that was the way to go to have a long-term character because, yeah, they muted the mic during the match because of the chance for Sasha Banks. But if you look at the facials, no one was into this match in the arena. Fans have become indifferent to Ronda Rousey. They don't hate her. They don't like her. They really, truly just don't care. And I don't know who her matches are even booked for. I don't know what fan base you're trying to get with those matches. Because you're not, and from what I can see, from my perspective, now granted, I know for a fact this isn't booked for me. I'm not the key demographic here. I'm not the guy they're trying to get. I'm too hardcore of a wrestling fan, and I'm too much. I know these aren't for me, and so I generally don't even watch them. But I see the backlash from people talking about that fans aren't part of the Ronda, and they're right, they're not. But they don't have a reason to be. WWE, over these couple years of having her on the roster, haven't given you a reason to be bought into Ronda Rousey. It's just resting off her MMA background, which, historically speaking, if you go back, it's no longer impressive. She was the most talented by leaps and bounds on the roster. So she got fed people that they knew she would beat. And it was almost a game system. If you go back and you watch some of those Herb Dean stoppages of some of those Ronda Rousey fights, whenever you were there watching, her opponents were fine. They were getting, overwhelmed, but you got to, in a championship fight, you should really give someone an opportunity to get out of a situation. And they were picking opponents who were going to get caught in the armbar. It was a marketing ploy with Ronda and the UFC. So anyone who has any sense of combat, and anyone who is knowledgeable in martial arts and knowledgeable in MMA especially now because there's so much out there and people have spent the past 5 years digging in deep into understanding things and seeing things from a fighter's perspective. They go back and they watch Ronda in the UFC, and it's clearly, you can see what they were doing. It's obvious. So where do you build on for a wrestling fan to get behind her? I don't really know. Really don't know how you get people behind Ronda. Of course, she won. She kept the belt, which was a given. You're going to have Shayna Baszler turn on Ronda to get that "my friend turned on me" sympathy, maybe. And maybe you can get Bill out another year and a half around Ronda Rousey on WWE. But otherwise, I don't know what her contract is, but they're definitely not getting a return on their investment there. I can't imagine people are buying Ronda Rousey merch. And, it's all just a rip-off of Roddy Piper merch anyway, so it doesn't really matter. We then got some more backstage segments where I really like the sprinkling of these to build this doubt leading into the men's War Game matchup. But after the Ronda Rousey match, we had what was my match of the night. And I honestly had a feeling that was going to be the case coming into it, and that's Bobby Lashley versus Seth Rollins versus Austin Theory for the U.S. title. Mark and I both, we called it out the gate. Austin Theory was going to win this. The idea that, Austin Theory was, being buried by WWE and by Triple H, I think it was safe to throw that out the window. A lot of people really felt that way. You see tons of things reporting that. Never felt that way. Honestly, I thought that it was an opportunity to hit reset on the character. An opportunity for them to make Austin Theory a viable candidate to be a guy who could carry a title. Get rid of the selfies, make him aggressive, make him, a determined young man looking to be the best he can possibly be. And having him pull off this victory was the way to do it. Getting rid of the Money in the Bank briefcase, because that carries such a weight with it. If you have the Money in the Bank briefcase, people expect you to have this epic cash in. In the current state of WWE, you're not cashing in that briefcase and beating Roman. So what was he going to do? He was going to cash it in on Roman and, put himself in a situation he knew he was going to lose. You have him cash in for the U.S. title, a situation where it was, he should have won, if not for Lashley screwing him out of it. And you go from there. And you look to see what you can do and build that character from there, which is exactly what they've done. In 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks, after they had him cash in and lose, they're burying him, he's ruined. Triple H buried a Vince McMahon guy. They've totally rebuilt him, and people are invested. I said people aren't invested in Ronda Rousey. People are invested in Austin Theory. You could tell by the reaction whenever he won. The dismay on the crowd, the live crowd. And you go to social media, and everyone was up and on. I can't believe they had him take the belt off Seth. Or why not? Why can't you believe it? He didn't have to cheat to win. He won within the construct of the match. He won and is the U.S. champion. Now, what this does, this frees Seth up to be in the mix, to talk about him, and the opportunity to go after Roman, because we don't currently have a viable candidate now. They're probably going to be KO, but we'll kind of touch on that in a minute. So now you have Austin Theory, young U.S. champion, a guy with, I don't even want to say it's heat, because the fans don't hate him. They were surprised that he won. They were surprised he took the belt off of Seth. But in time, you give it a year from now, you may be looking at one of the biggest baby faces in the company or in all pro wrestling in Austin Theory, because they're invested right now. They did it organically. They didn't force it. They took the briefcase off. Everyone, ha, 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 the guy's a joke. Immediately made him aggressive. Immediately made him stand out on the show. Then immediately gave him purpose. He wanted his revenge. Now, that's the best heel. It's also the best babyface. It's the best type of emotion to evoke in pro wrestling, is that I have to prove this. And he did it. Now he's done it. So now he can say, I said I would do it, I did it. Now, even though he can act heelish, there's truth in his words, there's truth in his convictions. The sky's the limit for Austin Theory at this point, honestly. And Mark the Monster said it out the gate. Said they took the briefcase off to free him from the shackle. And they did just that. And Austin Theory, honestly, put on a great showing. Seth Rollins, always going to put on a killer show. Bobby Lashley is an incredible athlete, an amazing WWE superstar. Match was guaranteed to be fantastic. But you have Austin Theory getting the belt. Now I'm invested. I'm curious for Raw. I want to see what's going to happen with Austin Theory as U.S. champion on Raw. Because that's the prestigious title on Raw. That's the Raw belt. So is Austin going to do open challenges? Are they going to have him mow through the roster? They're not going to take that belt off him anytime soon. He's holding on to it to probably at least February. But I think he should just run in with it till Mania. Because you have a lot of opportunities after the Rumble. I want to believe Cody wins Rumble, but there's a lot that says Cody may not win Rumble. You got a lot of variables there. So it's hard to say who's going to win the Rumble. My gut still tells me it'll be Cody Rhodes returning and winning it, but yeah, I could be wrong. They could want to build Cody for another year before he's main eventing Mania. So we could have Cody and Seth on repeat at Mania. No belt involved. They could play the whole thing back, which is fine, honestly. Now, we do have that he could feud a little bit with Bobby Lashley, give Bobby something to do before they reform the Hurt Business, which I think is inevitable, especially if you have Bobby taking some, his liberties with everyone. Eventually, people are going to mount up against him, so that's going to be a problem. He's going to have some friends. But I think, I don't know, I don't want to beat a dead horse on this one, but I mean, if by chance you're listening to this and you haven't watched that match, watch that match. I mean, you got to take the War Games matches out of there for a match that steals the show, because of course the War Games matches were going to be incredible, and they certainly were. But that triple threat match was great. It was a great showing for all three guys. Then we move on to men's War Games. I thought it was great to see them start off with Butch, as he's the most experienced. I'm getting better at calling him Butch instead of calling him Pete Dunne. Putting him in there with Jay to start things out. Great way to kick it off. These guys definitely worked that first 5 minutes. They built the anticipation for the first minute of waiting for conflict and just getting everyone right to the edge of their seat. They really just brought the emotion right to an all-time high. Like, that tension was right there. At top of my screen, that's where their tension was. Boop, right there. And they really worked to get their shit in 5 minutes. They really, it was hard hitting. It was immediately the small joint manipulation from Butch, which I thought was great. And you had the story of, the broken digits. And apparently, it's been reported that Jay may have fully broken that hand during the War Games event, during the match. I don't know if maybe there was just some tendon damage in there and he's going to need a little time to rest that, but I've seen some reports first thing this morning that he did in fact break his hand. So we'll have to wait to kind of hear what happens. Maybe they'll release something, or we'll see something on Raw where they'll address it. I can't imagine they will. They'll probably just put it in the back burner until SmackDown. We had the timer go out, and Rich Holland was man number 2 for the Brawling Brutes, and he came in to really just to be the powerhouse. He played that powerhouse role right out the gate, and he, for a guy his size, he's fast. I didn't care much for, and anyone who listens, I don't like the way he hits the corner to corner. He throws himself in the corner with way too much aggression. It ruins anyone ever doing the Irish whip to the corner for him, because no one's ever going to Irish whip him at a higher velocity than he throws himself into a corner. But he played the powerhouse role. They really beat down Jay, and that led to the second entrant for the Bloodline, which seemingly was going to be Jimmy Uso. Jimmy was ready to go, and Roman pulled him back. And it's not going to be you. It's going to be Sami Zayn, and send Sami in there. It's almost that, you're loyal? You tell me you're loyal every day? Well, get in there and prove it, bud. So they really worked that up, and you still were left hanging man, is Sami loyal? We don't have, KO's not in there. Is Sami loyal? And, yes, Sami proved he was loyal to Roman and to the Bloodline, and what was a very hard-hitting War Games match. And it ended with Sami low blowing KO and allowing Jay to hit the big splash and get the victory. So Sami low blows him. Jay hits the big splash. This is all in the process of saving Roman. KO did hit a stunner. Sami swooped in and stopped the ref from being able to hit the 3 count. So, KO has a legitimate gripe. I had you beat. I would have pinned the head of the table, Roman Reigns, had Sami Zayn not stopped the ref's hand from hitting the canvas. So KO could be our contender for Roman as we lead the Rumble and the road to WrestleMania before we know who is going to be WrestleMania matchup. Now, I don't know. I think that loyalty was proven, but I think that the story to tell isn't that Sami Zayn proved his loyalty to Roman, and that I think it's more that Sami Zayn proved that he didn't have loyalty to Kevin Owens. If you watch the press conference afterwards, which I think it's funny that WWE now does post-event media scrums a la AEW, who's doing it because it's a UFC thing. I think that it's pretty interesting how they did it, because Sami Zayn did the press conference in character. Like, he was full on in character. So it was done in a way where it was very... Sammy might be getting a little egotistical now. You know, he proved he was loyal to Roman, but he, mentioned how important he was, and Paul talked about how important Sammy is. And so I think we're going to see Sammy get a little bit more big-headed as part of the bloodline. Now, probably going to be made an official Uce on Friday night. And I think you're going to see Sammy start to, as my mom, my grandma would say, start to get a little too big for his britches. And I think that might be the story, right? As much as I initially would have said KO was going to be the guy to feud with Roman, that may be, but I don't think you're going to see anything where Sami Zayn aids KO in defeating Roman Reigns. I think you're going to see things build to Sami Zayn challenging Roman Reigns. And I think whenever that time comes, I think we will see Kevin Owens be involved to help Sami Zayn, just to be able to turn on Sami Zayn down the road. I think it's going to be like Sami Zayn in the bloodline is honestly my favorite story being told in pro wrestling right now, and it has been for some time. It's really it's just so good. There's so many layers. There's so many ways it could go, and it's funny because it was never intended to be long-term storytelling. But now you have so many things involved. You have so many areas where it's splintered off into other things, that you have such an opportunity to tell so many great stories with this one story. I think that they really have put themselves in a position where they could have this story keep going. Like, even after Roman's dethroned as champion, whomever does it, and maybe it's not Cody. I would have liked for it to have been Seth. I would have had Seth switch gears after the Cody feud, when Cody went out with the pec tear. I would have had Seth become unhinged after losing at Hell in a Cell, and wipe out the roster and go after Roman. I think we could have spent the fall and winter months of a Seth Rollins Roman Reigns feud leading to Rumble, and Roman finally getting that victory over Seth at Rumble to remain champion, to go on to WrestleMania as champion. But we didn't get that. It looks like there's talk that it could be Sheamus being our next real big main event contender for Roman, which I'm okay with. Sheamus has been putting together a body of work over the last year that's been really phenomenal. I really like Sheamus. Whenever him and Cesaro were the Bar, I thought it was a great team. They did a lot of great matches, and their work together was really good. But over the last year, Sheamus on his own as a solo competitor, his matches with Drew, his matches with Gunther. I mean, Gunther was a 5-star match at Clash of the Castle. That was top shelf, A+. Like, I really enjoyed that match. It's very good. I've gone back and watched it I don't even know how many times. Just a great piece of work. So I think you could do Sheamus and Roman. Be believable. I'm okay with that. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of where we go and what leads us to a Royal Rumble for Roman Reigns. I think that there's a lot of opportunity there to do things with so many people. It's one of those things where this reign has gone on. It's going to keep going until Mania at least. But there's so many great stories to tell because the Bloodline's feuded with so many people. And the feuds aren't done in a way where it's forced. It's just that they just got all the gold. And they're just, it's old school pro wrestling storytelling, all of the Four Horsemen just being the best guys in the business. So everyone's gunning for them, and it works. It really, truly does. But that's it, guys. I think War Games Survivor Series was a great premium live event by WWE. I think the 2 War Games matches were put together very well. They were booked well. The only downside I have for the entire card was actually just the Ronda Rousey match. But that match wasn't going to be booked for me anyway. There was nothing that was going to be done where that was going to be something that was for me as the product goes. It's just not. It wasn't going to be booked in a way I was going to like it, and I just didn't. And it doesn't sound like a lot of people did. But that's it, guys. Again, I'm Jeremy. This is Don't Say the F Word. We are a pro wrestling and combat sports podcast, and we do not use the F word when we talk about professional wrestling, and you shouldn't let your friends use it either. Until next time, guys, peace.